Hi, I'm Amy, and this is the HalfCaff podcast, where I like to talk about knitting and crochet, and hopefully you like to listen about knitting and crochet, so that makes us very compatible. I meant to hang out with you earlier, but January was, crazy, and I decided to wait until I was scheduled to go out of town, because for some reason I like to drag all my crap with me to a different location so that I can record there instead of at my own place where it's all already exists. I don't know. So I am taking a much needed solo weekend away and staying in a pretty tiny, cute little place near the Puget Sound. So I have gorgeous views and hopefully good light. This coffee that I've just completely already finished is vacation mug. So nothing special except that it's not mine and it lives far away, which is where I am. So, but I already drank all of it. Actually, I'll put it over here. The good thing about not having visited for a while is I have a whole buildup of things to show you. So let's get to that, should we? This is the first thing I want to show, and it is what I'm wearing. This is something I finished in January. It's called the Cumulus Blouse by Petite Knit. I kind of hate it. Sadly. I'm wearing it because I did it and I want to show you. And there's a lot of elements I love because I did choose the colors and I added the stripe, and that kind of thing. And I really like it. I also didn't do any I-cord finishing like the pattern calls for. I did ribbing. So I did it everywhere, all the finish off places, especially the V-neck. I think there's two reasons that I kind of hate it. One is that I think the sizing did not work out for me. And I think that's partially because of the yarn I used. So, the Cumulus blouse uses 2 strands of mohair held together, and she's calling that a worsted. I don't think that's the case. I think it certainly could be, kind of close to a worsted, but I think it's more of a DK. And so this has an okay drape after I washed it, but it's still, it's just too bulky. So I did go up a needle size and then I did size down to kind of accommodate and things like that. But still, I think the sweater is too huge. I mean, this is just too much ease for me. Yeah. So, yeah, you can kind of see. It's a pretty nice line. Yeah, but I mean, my armpit's here, So first of all, I learned a couple things. One is I don't like a boxy fit or a lot of positive ease. But because, just frank talk here, because I have a belly and I don't want it to fit me so tight that I look pregnant, I have to make certain adjustments so that it hangs right around that area, but then it still doesn't look just like dumpy and huge up here. So I have to figure out where things line up, and I did try it along as I go. But I have to figure out kind of where things line up in sweaters and how I really want them up here and where I need to start having a little bit more room so it looks the way that I want. So that's kind of what I'm trying to figure out. And I just don't think it was successful in this one. So it is super comfy. Okay, I will say that. But especially because I added the stripe, the cut is all wrong. So here's what I did. I added the V-neck and I added the ribbing, which means that it just kind of this was huge. This V dropped way below, my bra line, and it was just very, very large. But and I was worried about that. And, yes, it was a problem because I think I did overall the whole wrong size again, because of my yarn choice and because I miscalculated the ease. Even though I got gauge, I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so when I decided to add this stripe, and I really love it, and I really love these colors together, and I will tell you what the yarn is in a minute. But I decided to do the V-neck ribbing, which of course I was hoping would, cinch it up, which would mean that I don't have to rip it out and start all over, that even though the V was huge, it would kind of come in enough. And it did. So that's great. The problem is that it took my stripe. I don't know if you can see this. It took my stripe and it did this. So it's just like this. So I just feel like the chest area now looks really dumpy, unnecessarily, you know. So I'm not saying that anyone's going to say, oh, it doesn't look good. You know, it's a very well-crafted thing. It's just not what I prefer. I didn't want it to look dumpy, and I don't want the stripe to go. Now, I've made one V-neck stripe before, and it was a very good pattern, very detailed, and I still got a little lift when I did the V. I still got a little lift like I do here. This is kind of massive. Like, I can't block this out. And it totally lifts the whole sweater. So like this whole part is like lifted up even, you know, at the hem, right? Which makes sense in retrospect. But, and again, that's why I'm just going to need so much, practice, I guess, to really understand what I'm going to do to a sweater to get the end result that I want. So the yarn that I used, no, sorry, I wanted to talk about, so when I did this V and I added more of the V, because it's really just supposed to be an I-cord bind off, I'm not sure if it would have cinched it up at all, because the pattern doesn't have a stripe. I'm the one that added it. And if it cinches it up a little, I don't think you'll really know. I mean, maybe, but most of the time it'll be fine. But this cinched it up so much again that it's like just a thread kind of pulling everything up. So the stripe looks weird and the drape is weird. When I did this prior V, I didn't do any like weird yarn substitutions. I used the same weight of yarn. I did do a stripe, but the pull up effect when I did the V was pretty minimal. So I was able to block it out for the most part. That was the Dingley Dell tee. I'll put a picture here, that I talked about a few episodes ago. So that was more or less a success, but I did still get that lift. So something that would be negligible if it's minor and if you don't have a stripe, you know, around it that you're trying to match the line up with. So that's the main problem I have with this sweater. I also, again, don't like the super oversized fit. And that really seems to be like the fashion now. Like all sweaters are like boxy and oversized. And I just don't have the body for that. I don't want to look that I'm like twice as big as I already am on top, you know? So I'm learning all about that. I hope I'm retaining information. I'm definitely, there's a lot of error in this trial. I'll say that. But it is a functional sweater and it's super comfy. I love the neckline. I love how it turned out. I love the color combo. So again, the yarn I use, now I'm getting to it, is actually, there's an ironic story here. So, I tried to use some stash yarn that I've had forever. It's an acrylic yarn. But before I kind of did that less, I was on the end of my like 100% acrylic kick or, you know, nylon blend or that kind of thing. I fell in love with this yarn, from Yarn Bee called Effervesce, and, they discontinued it. And I went nuts and bought a whole bunch off eBay in a lot of different colors and stuff. So the browns and the grays are one of my favorite. The first sweater I ever made, I'll put a picture of that here, is, what was that called? I'll put it on the screen. I totally used to know. I think it starts with an E as well. Or not. Anyway, the first sweater I ever made was also out of Effervesce, in a gray colorway. So this dark color is called Suede. And the lighter brown is called Almond. And so I love the mix together. And I thought maybe I'll barely have enough, but I think, and I might have if I had sized down even more, but this is, not only is it a worsted, but it's also pretty fluffy. You can see the texture. This is not fuzz wear. This is just kind of fluff from the, so it's not like mohair fluff, but maybe it is. But yeah, it's got, see, I mean, my armpit is like down to my elbow. It's too oversized. Anyway, so it's very, very fluffy. And so it can create a lot of fluff. So I did, again, wash it because it's acrylic and you can do that to help it kind of like relax and have a little more drape, but it's still going to have a lot of bulk. So I don't know what I was thinking. That 2 strands of mohair, maybe it was a strand of mohair and fingering. I can't remember. But I don't know what I was thinking that it would make a worsted. That's what they said. That's what the pattern said. But that's where you got to be careful, right? It depends on the brand they used. Is it slightly thinner? You know, I mean, it's an imperfect system, as Andrea Mowry has recently said in one of her podcasts. And so I just think that I should have chosen a DK. But I wanted to use this yarn. So basically what I was trying to do is see how much of this yarn I had and then do Ravel research for, you know, the quantity I had, the weight I had, and with all my requirements of like, you know, I wanted a V-neck built in because I'm not really good at modifying, you know, big time. And I wanted the right look and stuff. So of course I didn't have a lot of choices once I whittled it down to all these requirements. So the Cumulus blouse seemed the best to do. And, so I think it might be fine. And in theory, I want to do this sweater again, but make different choices. I just need to decide what those choices are. So here's the irony. Because I knew, so what I was going to do is I was going to take the almond that I have and the suede that I have, and I was going to do alternating stripes. But when I got into it, I was like, really, I just want one big stripe. And maybe I'll do like these kind of accentuated stripes, you know, this like small line. So I love this stripe pattern, and I just kind of, you know, made that up, and it was great. But obviously that means the bulk of the sweater is going to be, the suede. And I didn't have enough of that. I had to alternate them in order to get the yardage. So I'm like, well, let me see if there's like just one skein out on, you know, eBay or something. Well, of course there's not. There's 4 in a lot, or there's 5 in a lot. And then when I started to realize that, you know, oh, this isn't like turning out how I want, but I can't tell that yet because you can't really tell until you get it all together and it's blocked and it's relaxed and you wear it, right? So I don't know how to account for those things because it's not finished yet. So I had to kind of see the whole project through. So I had to, I'm like, if I want to make it again, I'll need more. And I do love this yarn and this, this color. So anyway, I ended up adding enough, like 10 more skeins to my stash. So that did not work. Sorry, I bonked the camera there. Sorry, I kicked you. So there's some irony for you. I don't know. Has that ever happened to you where you just like, I was so excited I was going to use this stash because I have a bin full of this yarn, not in this color, in different colors, you know, but I'm like, come on, right? I can't even fit it where my normal stash goes because it's its own gigantic thing. So I'm like, I'm going to do it. And then I just totally made the problem worse. And the product I ended up with is, you know, not the best. So I kind of hate it for those reasons, that it kind of looks dumpy because of the V-neck stripe problem and that it's just too oversized. And in order to compensate, I actually kind of panic decreased. So I ended up with just like such a weird shape. Anyway, these are the things that probably only I will notice. But if you spend so much time wearing it and you really had like this idea in mind and you don't get it, you know, it's not the best. So I'm kind of coming down on that. I think I sort of like hate a lot of my projects, like right when they're off the needles. And then I'm like, oh, what was my problem? Right? Double Virgo here. Anyway, so I do think I may attempt it in the future, and I may even attempt it with the pattern, but I will have to like maybe use a medium or something. I don't know. I'll figure it out. And then I don't know what I'll do with this. Maybe gift it or something. We'll see. That said, I do think that even though it doesn't look the way I liked, and even though I think it looks kind of dumpy, it's actually not bad. And again, it's super comfy. So when I thought I was going to visit with y'all, like, you know, 3 or 4 weeks ago, in order to motivate myself to, you know, be ready to podcast and everything, I'm like, okay, you're going to podcast today, right? So put on the sweater, right? So I ended up putting on the sweater like 5 days in a row, and I would just wear it all day long, and it was very comfy. So I'm like, okay. So is it a success? Meh. But it'll do. And hopefully I've learned some things. I think I'll forget everything I learned if I don't do it soon, but I did try to take copious notes about what I was doing and why it didn't work and what I think I need to do differently. So hopefully I can figure that out and maybe use up the stash, right? So that's that story. The next thing I finished, I don't have with me here because they're on my husband's feet, and those are the sock monkey socks. So I finished those and they were perfect. And I'm so thrilled. I had to actually kind of do, weirdly, a lot of fussing with them, which I don't think is any kind of fault of the pattern. It's really just the way it's made. So when you make a sock, you know, if you're striping it or something where it's not just a solid thing, when you do the heel, there's all kinds of ways to do heels, of course. And the way this heel is, it's kind of like it's got a modified gusset. So it's a shorter gusset. But then in order to get this kind of striping where you've got the red, like surrounded by the cream and then surrounded by the gray, where it doesn't go all the way across your ankle, you have to do it in a particular way. So there was a shadow wrap heel, there was wrap and turn and that kind of thing so that I could get the right effect. But a modified gusset was really helpful, I think, so that the fit would still be nice, because my husband usually really needs the heel flap and gusset to really fit nice around his ankle. Anyway, it turned out really cute. It fit him perfectly. I gave it to him for his birthday in January. And he wears them all the time. So these are the Sock Monkey socks by Wendy Gaal. And the yarn is Patons in, I think it's gray marl or marled gray or something. And also the red is, and it's just, I think it's just red. Eloquent. But the light color, the ivory kind of color, is Blue Sky Fibers. And that is their Woolstock, and it's, held double. So that thickness was a little bit thick, but it worked out. So I kind of had to really work to find the colors, because it's not just whatever colors you like. It's like what'll give that classic sock monkey effect, right? Anyway, enough about the socks. They worked out great, la-di-da. So the next thing I want to show you is, this was a test knit that I did, and I ended up actually doing two, because, so it's a headband, you know, that for ear warming and all that in the winter. And I was supposed to test knit the double-sided, cause that's what I chose, but I ended up following the single-sided directions. And so I was just like, well, I'll just make two. So I have a single-sided and a double-sided version to show you, which, it will turn out really cool, because I want to show you the differences in this. So I do really like this pattern. So this is called, let me just show it to you. Ta-da! This is called the Luna headband, and that is by Not Possessed by Mary. I always want to say that. So those of you who know or have followed for a while, you know that my other love is horror and horror movies. And I follow somebody called Possessed by Horror on YouTube. And so whenever I think of this woman's name, I keep thinking Possessed by Horror. It's Yarn Obsessed Mary, who is also Hunt Hand Knits, and that's who created this pattern. So the pattern is out now by the time you see this, just for a couple of days now. And I definitely recommend it, because she gives you a lot of different options. One thing I was really excited about this is, first, it's a fast knit, which is great. Second, it is, well, I love moons. Moons are a big, moon and moon imagery and celestial imagery in general are a big deal to me, which I'll tell you about someday. And also it is kind of part of my Make 9, because I sort of unofficially made a Make 9 and just sort of slapped it up on Instagram. But my Make 9 projects weren't entirely about the project. Some of them were, like one of the things that I'll show you now, but like half of them at least were because I wanted to try a certain technique. So I've been wanting to learn brioche forever. I know how to do it in my head, but I've never actually done it. I've just heard about it a lot and I've watched videos and things like that, but you know, just really to do a project, that contains brioche. So that's one of them. And also, the Latvian braid. And so this has a Latvian braid, which is this right here. So I was really excited to do it. And it turns out it's like crazy easy. So there's the front. There's the back. I didn't bother to line these up because it doesn't really bug me, but probably should have. But then, surprise, this is the double-sided version. So poof, look at that. This is the inside, or it could be the outside, whatever you like, because it still looks just as gorgeous on both sides. And that is because it is double-sided. So this is my single-sided version. And Hello, floats. So I definitely recommend this pattern. And I also definitely recommend you do the double-sided. Obviously, it's a little bit more work, but it's a headband. It's not like a blanket. You know, you can do it. But besides the super duper like quadruple squish that you get from this because of all that, you'll obviously hide your floats so you don't have to worry about catching anything. So you have a lot of options in the pattern. So you get a lot of bang for your buck, first of all, which is really great. But second of all, I would really do the double-sided because I did not catch my floats in all of these moons. I was just, you know, kind of careful with my tension to make sure that I wasn't pulling too hard. And of course, when I blocked it, I kind of gave it a nice stretch to just make sure that those were all, you know, kind of wrestled it a little bit. Wrestled is a strong word. I just, you know, to make sure that those kind of all lined up, but they're all going to be hidden. And so here's the difference. First of all, you know, if you catch your floats, that's fine. And I have no problem catching my floats. But when you have these big sections of color work, the floats tend to show through. Obviously, if you're doing Fair Isle or something, I mean, you're switching colors so many times, that's not a big issue. But with this, I mean, you could practically have an intarsia situation here if you really wanted to, because of the, you know, it's not too bad. You don't have to like actually do intarsia, but if you wanted to avoid this catching the floats and showing through, you know, that might be the idea to do. So on this first one, I did catch my floats. Of course, the pattern advises you to catch your floats because that's what you typically need to do, but you might have this problem. So when I did the double-sided, I decided I'm not going to catch my floats so that I can have a nice pure color line there. And I'm not going to, as long as I keep my tension good, you know, even as much as I can, so that the fabric won't pucker or whatever, I can fix anything else in blocking by just kind of giving it a nice stretch. And then when I sew it together, or on a Kitchener it together, because basically you'll have this panel and then you'll have the inside panel and then you fold it on itself and of course Kitchener one of the edges. And beautifully, I can't tell which edge I Kitchenered, which is what you want, right? So you'll fold it in on itself and then Kitchener it together, and then it will not only encase all the floats inside, but I didn't have to worry about then them being too long and getting caught on something, or you know, something happening and meshing up my tension because they're not exposed, and I don't get those floats that I caught showing through. So here's the comparison. So that is what I did and what I recommend. Look at that. Look at the difference in squishy factor. Let me see if I can hold that up. Boom. Squish. So the next thing I want to talk about, I think I started, I'm not sure, but I think I started it when I was almost finished with this one. I actually worked on this one quite a bit solo because I really wanted to get that finished product out. But I think that I may have mentioned before that it's really helpful for me to, because I can, to move between knit and crochet and kind of alternate if I have one of each project going. Just sometimes it kind of helps to mix things up for your enjoyment, but also just for my hands. I obviously will take rests and breaks and things, but sometimes just a different movement of crochet versus knit can kind of help me be able to do the fiber thing longer. So I needed a crochet project, and so I decided, I don't even remember why, to do a shawl again. And partly because I still have a lot of different minis, and I have a lot of fingering weight, and so I was going to try to kind of combine a lot of different colors, and I thought, well, that's probably best then to do a shawl because it'll be big, but also, you know, it's okay if I don't wear it all the time because I usually tend to be pretty monochromatic in my taste. So I really, really love how this one turned out. It's a little bit, I think I wish it was, wider, longer, whatever you call this way. I followed the pattern. So the pattern, it's meant to be this way, but I think maybe in retrospect, I might like mine a little bit taller. How about that? Anyway, so this was a perfect pattern for that sweet spot between changing up enough so that you have interest, you know, whether you're changing colors or changing stitch patterns or having to do some increase, decrease, whatever, versus the need to not have to look at the pattern all the time and be able to kind of be, you know, be repeatable and be able to watch TV and that kind of thing. This is the perfect sweet spot for that. So all you crocheters out there, if you're interested, I would recommend it. And I put so many of my minis together and used up so much stash yarn. This is all stash yarn, so super win. So this is, I'm going to be able to fit it all on, but of course I'll probably take a picture. This is the Parallel Lines crochet shawl. It is mostly rectangular, and then it kind of has these asymmetrical ends. So it's definitely larger than my wingspan, but that's as thick, or that's as tall as it is. So it's fairly narrow. It really is just for your shoulders. Now, I think I mentioned before, I'm not one to wear shawls like scarves. So I like them to be like around the shoulders, like, you know, a shawl, that kind of thing. So it's maybe a little bit thin to do that. But I think it's okay. I just think I'm coming to realize that I'm not a shawl person, and I did kind of know that, but I still want to keep making them. I really love this color, especially. I don't know if you can see that. And I'm so super into the dusty pinks, especially lately, but I think all the time. So, and this color right here, this sort of yellow and pink, I mean, I really wouldn't have even used that, but you know, in this kind of thing, you can kind of get away with things that you might not have. So I love every color in this, and I'm going to try to list them all for you. So let's see. This is Sunstone. This is not a mini. This is something left over from a project. I will insert a picture of that if I can remember which one it is. So this yarn is Sunstone by Cedar House Yarn. This is all fingering weight. This dusty pink and this, let's see. Yeah, the dusty pink as well as the kind of like warm brown. Those are both Quantum Entanglement, which is a yarn that the woman who ran my LYS has. She doesn't own the store anymore. She has moved, but I still have some of that yarn left, and I really like it. It's called Vacay. And I don't remember what the names of these are. I don't think they were listed. So it's just this lighter dusty pink and this darker brown. And then all the rest came from Dragon Horde Yarns. One of their, I think it was one of their Fae advent calendars. So let's see. There is... I think this one is Cheeky Nipsies, I think. And this one of my favorite one, is Crown of Rowan Berries. So yeah, just got... And then I had to change in between. So what you do is you do these rows of half double crochet, which is actually like my most hated stitch in crochet, but it's okay. It's effective. So all these little stripe portions that edge the colored or the pattern portions are half double crochet, and then you follow this pattern in between. So it's, you know, I didn't mean to break up the colors. I just sort of had to, so I could use more of the colors than in the minis that I wanted. So I tried not to do that. These actually weren't minis. These were just skeins I broke into. But I had to in order to get enough pink. So I'm actually really happy with it. It flew off the hook, as it were. And I think it's really pretty and super springy. So I like it. Anyway, this is the Parallel Lines Crochet Shawl by Joanne Scrace, I think. The only thing I had to remember is that this uses UK terms, so I just had to remember to convert as I was going, but that's not too hard, especially because the pattern's so repeatable. Definitely recommend it if you are a crocheter. Let's see. How much more do I have to show you? I think 2 more things to show you. Another finished object. See, I finished all the things. In fact, when I wrote my notes for this podcast, I had whips down that I was like, well, just kidding. I finished that in the meantime. So, hey, I don't think this is blocked yet, but my half sister is having a baby, and she's the only one I know having a baby. And I'm just seeing all the cute baby things. And I'm really loving baby knits because you can get a finished garment and not as long as a time. And because I've never been somebody who just knits for me, honestly, my style is jeans and a stretchy V-neck black tee. That's my favorite thing to wear. So all this, like that year of kind of like knitting for me, was an experiment, and it was fun. And I do wear some of those things, but it's just not my go-to. So I've always been somebody who knits or crochets just because I want to do the project. And I want to see the project finished, but then I'm like, okay, I don't know what I'm going to do with this now, so I'm going to give it away, which is why I have a shop, so I can sell it, and why I love to do those little local fairs when the COVID sitch is such that I feel like I even can. But boy, am I stockpiling right now. Anyway, so I'm thrilled to have a baby to knit for, so I'm sure that she's going to be overwhelmed, but hey, that's her problem, right? No, I'm just kidding. So this is, I showed you last time, the Bean and Olive, I think it was, in blue. This is Little Tree Line. And this is by Jessica McDonald. This uses something I've been using a lot because it's at my local LYS, and it's just kind of a good go-to. It's kind of like Cascade 220. You know, if they carry that, you use a lot of that. She carries a lot of Barocco, vintage and worsted and chunky and all that. So I just end up using that, and it's great. So this is the size, I think, for a 2-year-old. And look, I rolled up the little cuffs. I made the cuffs a little bit longer than the pattern calls for, so I could roll them up. Stop it. So cute. This took no time, maybe a couple days, and it's so pretty. And this is actually on my Make 9 too. So already done and off the needles. I don't think I really need to block it, but I might. Obviously it'll become a little bit more relaxed. The thing I like so this is Barocco, vintage worsted. And this is an acrylic wool blend. And the main reason I really like that is because it's washable, machine washable. And that's just a must when you have a baby. I mean, you'll have some special pieces maybe that, you can maybe only put them in for pictures or, church or something. I don't know. But most of the time you just need to be able to chuck something in the washer. So I really try not to give anybody who's having a baby something that's not machine washable, because I won't even buy cups or mugs that can't go in the dishwasher, because it's just, you're never going to use it, or it's just going to sit there and be gross forever while you try to make yourself hand wash this one item. So anyway, and it's a baby. They get crud on their clothes, so I think this will be just perfect. So hopefully this will fit them when it's in the cold season. So that is knit, of course. But speaking of crochet, as we were, even knit, it doesn't matter. I'm finding that, yes, I have my Make 9 and that kind of thing, but I'm finding that, again, life is so intense right now that I'm running a lot of invisible programs in my subconscious, right? And it's taking up a lot of my mental RAM. And when that happens, I don't really want to cast on a new project, because a lot of times casting on, or, getting through the beginning of a project is actually kind of time intensive when you think about it. You have to make sure you have enough of the yarn, make sure you've chosen the right yarn, the right colors. You may have to do a swatch depending on what you're making. And then of course in knit, there's like, do I have the right needles and the right combination with the right length of cord? And then which cast on do I do? And then casting on and kind of getting going, right? I'm not trying to make it like it's, a big, horrible labor, but it's fun, but it just takes some brain power, right? And that's something I haven't had. The benefit of that is that I'm actually getting a lot of work done on existing projects, like a blanket or whatever. I don't have it here to show, but I've tried to work on my honkin' poncho. I'll try and post a picture here if I can. This is a project that's been in the works for a couple years now. Maybe longer, like 3 or 4. Gosh, I don't know. And it's on metal chunky needles, and no matter what, and I have it on metal needles so that the yarn will move more quickly. But it's an entirely cabled panel, and the yarn is 100% acrylic, and so it just, for whatever reason, maybe because of the tight stitches or whatever, or maybe because it's so long, I have to wrestle it because of the big needles, because of the kind of yarn, because of the length of the project, whatever. So it's just not something I come to. It's slow going because there's a million stitches on the needle. A million, probably 300 or something. Maybe not even that much because it is a worsted. Anyway, there's a bunch of needles on of stitches on the needle, and I have to wrestle it. It doesn't just flow off. It's worked flat, so there's every other row is purl. So I'm only cabling. It's an 8-row repeat, and I'm only cabling 2 out of those 8 rows. So that, has some speed, but it is just taking forever. So I have been working on that here and there. But I'll sit there for an hour and get like 3 rows done. It's crazy. So that's taking some time. But I've been working on my fire blanket because I can do it in motifs. So I can just kind of like crochet a square, chuck it out. And so again, when I finish with that shawl, which I did, weeks ago, I'm able to just kind of do these squares, and they're pretty quick. So they end up building up. I'm a little over it by now. This is I'll just show you the squares. I've sewn them together, what I have so far. But basically I'm using stash yarn, and it's pretty much mostly acrylic. I think this one might have some wool. I don't know. I don't think I have the labels anymore. But yeah, everything else is acrylic. I mean, this is Red Heart. This is Caron. Most of it's Red Heart. I think this is like a big twist maybe. Anyway, so we're just talking the basic acrylic. So pretty. I'll just hold it up. You don't need to see me. Just basic acrylic stash that I've had from my amigurumi days. And I'm kind of over the squares now. Like I want it to be done, right? And, I have enough blankets. So I did think about doing this like, queen size or king size. But I think I'm getting pretty close to over it if I'm not there already. So I think I'm just going to keep a throw blanket, even though we have a lot of those too. But hey, whatever. So I wanted to, first of all, you don't join as you go. I mean, you could, I just haven't bothered. So I wanted to sew these together where I was right now to see how many I had, to see how big it is. Can I stop yet? That kind of thing. So I actually brought it with me on the trip to finish that up. I sewed everything. I'd already sewed a huge project, and I think a huge part of it. And I think I showed you that earlier, maybe last couple podcasts. But I had a good 30 more or so. So I sewed those on, and I hid every tail, and oh my word. I will put a picture in of the pile of tails I had afterward. There were at least 1 per square. There were 2 per square. Yeah. And this is big. So, I think it is now 9 by 9, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay. So 10 by 9 right now. That's a lot of tails. So I just, watched TV and did them all up, and there they are, a big pile of tails. So I I'm going to wash this so that I see when it relaxes and, you know, evens out how big it really is, and see if I can stop. If not, I want it to be at least, you know, throw blanket size. It's kind of there. You could get away with it, lap blanket, but I'll see if I'm satisfied and maybe crank out a few more squares before I call it done. This is the fire blanket. It's called so, I think probably because the original is done in reds and oranges, but I had a lot of blue yarn. I love blues and greens and browns, so I tend to have a lot of that, and especially a lot of that in acrylic. So that's why I decided to do this. It hasn't used up everything, but I've used a lot of it. Like I don't have any more of this color. This is Peacock, which is super, super gorgeous. I have a lot of that. I don't have any more of the Caron. Yeah, so I have used up quite a bit of it. The last thing I want to show you is kind of the only true whip that I have with me in a new bag that I just got from Levon Made. I know it looks like all my other bags. In fact, I showed my daughter this bag, and she's like, "You've had this bag." No, I swear you've had this bag. And I pulled out every bag I had, and yes, I have a lot of crows and astrology charts and like writing and like, you know, bats and snakes and whatnot. But no, not this one. And she was bewildered, and I'm like, I know. Look at the cool little stitch pattern that she took the time to do, though. I mean, I'm sure that's machine stitched, you know, obviously, but so it's not a big deal. It's just a setting, but it's just such a nice touch. So I really like Levon Made's bags. That and Bags by April are kind of my go-tos for checking. But Levon Made's prices are really great too, I gotta say. So the inside is just this kind of, yeah. Anyway, so this project, what's this even called? This is one of my make nines as well. Like I said, I'm on the quest for the perfect like V-neck fitted, but not too fitted sweater. And I wanted to do it worsted because I've been kind of wanting to do worsted lately because I just got so much fingering and it takes forever. It has such a gorgeous drape. I mean, you know, but I wanted to do things a little bit heavier and maybe a little bit faster because it's worsted. So this is a Malabrigo. I don't remember if it's Arroyo or Rio, so I'll put that here, or something else from my LYS. And so this is the under duress in the way that I am doing it. Let me just kind of get this so that it's recognizable as a garment. But there you go. I can do this. Yeah. So I have just, it's a V-neck, as I said. So I've just joined the body. I've just split off for the sleeves. So it's kind of that exciting point. But here's where I've got to really think about how I need it to fit my body and where I need, like, it does have waist shaping. I do think and hope that the yoke isn't too deep. There's no striping, so I'm not going to be worried about it yanking it up when I do knit the collar on and kind of everything cinches up. I love this red. Love this red. So this is where I've really discovered what the things I really like in a sweater. So I need it fitted, decently fitted anyway, especially around the bust and the shoulders. And then again, a little bit of room, but not too much room, from like the under bust down. The good thing is this pattern is really thoughtful about the shaping in all areas. So that's why I picked it. And the other thing that I really, really like is that it has a set in sleeve look. But it's done contiguous method, and I completely love that. So you don't have to sew. I'm willing to sew. It's just there's more room for, you know, error or bulk, or it to not come out how you want, I think. So this is and I'll just V-neck all the time. Crew neck is okay in certain, but V-neck is always what I prefer to wear. So this had a V-neck, it had the contiguous sleeve, the set-in sleeve look, and it had some good tailoring. So that is why I picked this pattern. So again, this is part of my Make 9. Here, I just need to make some decisions about Does the pattern do what I want it to do about shaping? Do I need to add bust darts? Do I need to, like, how do I get it? Do I move the waist shaping up to the under bust and then like come back out earlier? I've also got to think about the sleeves because I always like them more fitted than they usually are in a pattern. So I usually have to think about my own decreases. I might want a little bit of a longer ribbing, like a 3 to 4 inch ribbing on the sleeves. So I've got some decisions to make. And so I've a little bit stalled on that because, again, brain power. I need some of that and I don't have it. Let me tell you more about my Make 9. So I've done, as I said, here's my whole Make 9. And it's already going to be changed. Because, so you can see I've done a little tree line. I'm working on the under duress in the middle right now. I put Frog and Toad there. Toad is almost done. I need to just go back to him. And then I need to find the yarn that I want for their clothes. For some reason, I was thinking I was going to do a bunch of outfits for Frog and Toad, but there's just 2. There's just Frog's outfit and Toad's. So Toad's swimsuit. So I don't know what my damage was. But so I'm not too far away from that. Still some work to do, but I did put Frog and Toad because I am finishing them this year. It's happening. This is a shawl that Volenvine yarns that Volenvine did on her channel, and she really loved it. I chose this because it's brioche, but honestly, I might not do this one because we'll see. I may or may not do this one because why? Oh, because I just did that pink shawl and I kind of got like, you know, it's a crochet shawl, but it kind of got my yayas out for shawls. So I don't know. So I may or may not do this one. This one, Along avec Anna, this is another one I was thinking for. And instead of the under duress, I was maybe going to do this one. I love the little detailing. Is it on the sleeves? Along the raglan line. But this pattern, I looked twice. I haven't purchased it yet, but it says it's only in French. And I do speak French, but I don't speak knit French. So I don't know. I may decide to do that. Maybe it's also in English too. I know a lot of her patterns are. So I don't even know if this one's going to sit on my list. But it was another V-neck that I loved that I felt like would be a good fit. Had nice shaping, and the raglan detail is really pretty. Also too, the reason this is on my list is because I wanted to do mohair finally. I really haven't done it yet. I have some red mohair that I might use, but I don't know what color I'd make this, so I may have to get some other. But this uses mohair, and I was going to do that. So that may still be an option, but I might have to find something else. This blanket I've had on my list forever. It's so cute, and it's great for a kid, except that there's a lot of places for fingers to get stuck in, and I rethought this. So this may not be on my list after all. So what else? Then I decided to knit my husband a sweater this year. Apparently there's a boyfriend curse where if you knit them a sweater, you'll break up, but we're going on 25 years now. So I think we're safe. I don't know. Fingers crossed. Anyway. So, I'm going to do the Cola cabled sweater by Paolo Vanzo, and, looks like a pretty good pattern. Hopefully it's good. And then, one of the last 2 are things I'd never done. The Heart of the Forest socks. I've never done colorwork socks before. We'll see how that goes. But I did decide to do that. And the Aurora Borealis mittens by Anita Vixton. So I love the Northern Lights. It is like the very top of my bucket list of things to see before I die. And I love the way she's done the Aurora. It's so pretty. But the reason this is on my Make 9 for things I haven't done before is that I've never done a mitten. I think maybe I've done a glove once. No, you know what I did? I did fingerless mittens, but that had like a little bit of finger like to here. So they're semi-fingerless. Anyway, I think I've done those before, but I haven't done mittens and I haven't done any proper gloves. So I thought, and gloves seem just a little tedious to me. with the 10 fingers. So I decided to try the mittens, but the main reason this is on there is because it has a Latvian braid at the cuff. But I've done a Latvian braid, so that's cool. But still, I'm still going to do the mittens this year, I think. So that's my Make 9. I do think that it will change, and I think that I'll update because I do like the Make 9 thing. I don't find it torturous. I don't find that I failed if I didn't do it. It's just a nice thing because you have lots of favorites or lots of patterns, and you might forget what you were up to. And so then I can kind of look at it and go, oh yeah, I felt like doing that. So I'm happy with the Make 9 idea. And, so I'll have to update it and probably post it on Instagram again or something like that. But I think I'm off to a good start nonetheless. So that's all the knitting content and crochet content I have to show to you. Thanks for the visit, and I'll see you next time. Bye.